Hi and welcome. Today we're going to talk about a map that's so popular, most players reward it with a band mark. This map comes in two versions with 3 capture points. One shows up often while the other appears less frequently. Still, the strategies I use work for both. So let's start from the right spawn, where I'll show you a fairly aggressive approach. As soon as we leave our spawn, the first thing we do is check sectors C1 and B1. Our goal here is to gather intel on whether the enemy is moving onto the hills on the right flank, and if possible, count how many of them are pushing that way. Sometimes you'll also spot enemies trying to hide near the houses close to their spawn. Our goal is to reach the aggressive position in sector C4. On the way, you can try to pick up a kill, but to be honest, that almost never happens. The terrain is terrible on both sides, which makes hitting anything reliably very difficult. Most of the time, you'll just waste shells and end up relying more on luck than on accurate fire. Once we reach our main position, we can start dealing damage to enemies just as they're leaving the capture point. From here, we have an excellent view of the many buildings where opponents like to hide and trade shots with our teammates. If we get the second version of this map, where the capture point is on the right flank, the gameplay is almost the same. The only real difference is that we'll need to check to the right more often so we don't miss enemies climbing the hill. By the way, the second version of the map is slightly larger, and this position is located in sector D4. This position not only lets you flank enemies fighting in the center of the town, but also gives you a small line of sight on the enemy spawn exit. That means you can punish the unlucky players who couldn't find a better spot than camping near the houses by their spawn. Overall, this position is very straightforward to play. Most of the time, if you die here, it's because you missed an enemy slipping onto the hills to our right. Still, I highly recommend giving this spot a try. Unlike the meat grinder in the middle of the map, from here it's hard to end up with 0 kills. On slow tanks, I still head to the exact same position, just, slower. But if you try this spot in a Soviet tank with poor gun depression, things can get tricky. You'll have to poke almost your entire tank out of cover to take a shot, and with weak reverse speed, the enemy will punish you for nearly every round you fire. The second strategy I sometimes use is on the left flank in sector F5. This one is a lot more passive, and you won't be dying nearly as often as with the first approach. Our goal here is to move into this low ground. From this position, we get a decent line of sight on some of the routes the enemy takes toward point C, but the real value here is that we draw the attention of the enemies playing behind the rock right in front of us. The biggest downside is the amount of bushes in front of us. Some of them you'll have to clear out with your machine gun. Also, keep in mind that by slightly adjusting your tank's position, you can open up a fantastic view of the town and help your team hold off an enemy push. And once you're sure you're safe and no one is pushing you, you can start firing at the enemy's spawn exit. If our team is losing, we stay in this position, keep control over the town, and focus on taking out enemies pushing our teammates. Once the situation stabilizes and our team starts moving into the enemy's side of the map, we should shift forward a bit to the rock right in front of us. From this spot, we get an absolutely fantastic view of the enemy's spawn exit. Our main job here is to keep a close eye on the right side, making sure no enemies slip from their spawn into the forest. The most important thing to remember is that this position only works once our team is pushed into the enemy side of the battlefield in the center. Always keep an eye on the mini-map. If the enemy wipes out our teammates in the center, just fall back to the previous position. Before we move on to the other side of the map, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching my videos and supporting the channel. Every view, every like, and every comment really helps this project grow, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I truly value each and every one of you for being here, and I'm glad these guides are useful to so many players. And of course, a special thanks goes to those of you who clicked the join button and became channel members. Your support not only motivates me to keep creating, but also makes it possible to invest more time and energy into this channel. So once again, thank you very much. It really means a lot to me. On the left side, the gameplay is much simpler, and honestly, humanity still hasn't invented a better strategy than becoming the guardian of the rock in Sector F4. As soon as we get to F4, the first thing we do is check the left side. Fast-wheeled vehicles might already be there, especially if you're driving a slower tank. Once we climb up the hill, we follow a simple routine. First, look left to see if the enemy is pushing us. Then shift your attention to the right side of the screen. That's the position we talked about earlier. And don't forget to check near the building close to point B. That spot is a direct counter to this position, and if you miss an enemy hiding there, they'll have a very good chance of taking you out. First and foremost, we always deal with the enemies directly in front of us, while also listening carefully to what's happening on the right, so we don't let anyone slip up on us at close range. Once the situation becomes stable, we start covering additional routes. Enemies don't come through this area very often, but they do get a decent line of sight on our position, so make sure to check it from time to time. A bit further to the right is the enemy spawn exit, which they use to move into the town. Next, we control this hill. Enemies show up here quite often as well. And on the far right, there's a spot where almost every match you'll find at least one player set up. Guys, I know there's a lot of information here and it can be hard to remember everything, so I'm including a video of me playing this position to make it easier to see where I'm looking and what I'm doing. Of course, I'm not showing the entire match. I don't want to waste your time, but I've highlighted the key moments that matter most. The last important thing to remember on this position is that if the enemy pushes you hard, you can fall back into the low ground and put them in a very awkward spot. From there, the only way they'll be able to dislodge you is by attempting something really crazy. I hope you found something useful in this video. Thank you all for watching and for the likes you might decide to leave under this video. That's all from me for today. See you on the battlefield.